information about the persons who adopted you. And then, so as you can see, the next question will ask you what's the marital status of your parents. And so you will click the one that applies to you. And then for this example specifically, I said like the marital status of my parents were married or remarried. And so if you do say that, it will ask the questions, when did your parents get married or remarried? And so if you're unsure about that month and the year, please reach out to your parents, as well as just getting that information beforehand. And then it will have you enter the information for your first parent. And so you will enter its social security number, first name, last name, date of birth, email address. And so if you have that folder that I gave you all during your one-on-one meetings, and you had filled out that RDS worksheet, you'll be able to use that for the first couple questions, such as social security number, their last name, first initial, their date of birth. And for your parents' email address, some of you all may know. If not, please reach out to your parents. And then the next section will ask you to enter information for your other parents. And so you would do that. And then it will ask, have your parents lived in North Carolina for at least 5 years? And so you will hit yes or no. And then it will ask information for your parents' dependents. And so it's very important that you look right here where it says do not include yourself, the student. And so when typing in the number, just please make sure that you do not include yourself. And so as you can see, how many other dependent children do your parents have? Here are kind of like where you consider whether or not they are dependent children. So it says like, will rely on your parents for more than half of their financial support between July 1st, 2022 to June 30. So also feel free to reach out to me with any questions if this section seems a little bit tricky. And then we move on to the section of parent financials. And so it'll ask you, the first question will ask for 2020, have your parents completed their IRS income tax return or another tax return? And so you will select whether they have completed it, not yet, but they will, or they are not completing it. And so in this example specifically, I said that my parents have already completed their taxes. The type of income tax returns was an IRS form 1040. And then it will also ask for your parents' tax filing status. And so my example says married file joint return. And so as you can see, based on the answers that I have provided, it does allow me to use the IRS data retrieval tool. And if you are able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, I highly recommend you to use it because it will save so much time from having to input like all the answers manually, because then the IRS data retrieval tool will do all that. And so we'll skip a lot of the sections because it will have already completed it. And so definitely recommend using this tool if you are able. And then for this example specifically, I said that we were going to input it manually because I wanted to show you all what it looks like when you input it manually. And so ask, what was your parents' adjusted gross income for 2020? And then how much did both your parents earn from working, wages, salary, tips? And so as you can see in the italicized, it does provide where you can look. And so it says like a form 1065 and then or an IRS form 1040. And so just pay close attention to that if you are entering the numbers manually. And then it will ask if your parents file Schedule 1, and so you would hit yes or no, or don't know, and then enter the amount of your parents' income tax for 2020. And then it will ask a lot of these questions, and so please read over it carefully. And so if you are unsure of how to answer these questions and your parents are not with you at the moment, I would suggest logging out. And then once there's a time where your parents can come in and answer all these questions, or you're like with your parents, then I recommend you logging back in and doing this section, because they'll ask about education credits, if they have any special comeback pay. And as you can see, there's more questions such as child support and how much money they have got from possibly like a federal work study. And then it will ask for untaxed income. So as you can see, it is very important that you go through each question and you read it carefully. And so as noted, if there is nothing to report, the answer should be 0. And then it'll ask for your parents' assets. And so it'll ask how much is in their total current balance of cash, savings, and checkings account, what's their net worth, and etc. And then we move on to the student financials section. And so as you can see, it's very similar to the parent financial section, but this time it is for you, the student. And so as you can see, it asks similar questions like, have you completed your IRS income tax return? What income tax return did you file? And what was your tax filing status? And so your answers may vary. And so this is just an example to help walk you through it. And then it'll ask if you do say that you did file taxes, it'll ask like, how much did you earn from working in 2020? And they'll ask you similar questions to how it asks your parents, such as whether you got child support, federal work study. And so for a lot of you all, the answers to this question may be 0. Then see, it asks you more questions about housing, food, and other living allowances paid to members of the military, any tax deferred pensions. So then it will also ask you for questions about your assets. And so you'll see it says, what's the total current balance of cash, savings, and checkings account? And so you would input, how much money you have in those accounts, and etc. And then once you complete all that, you will reach this page, which is the FAFSA summary. And so the FAFSA summary is basically a summary of how you answer all of the questions from each of those sections, starting with student demographics to the last section we just did with student financials. So it's very important to double check all of your information that you inputted. And if you do notice that and information that you inputted is incorrect, you're able to go back to that previous section and change it. And so definitely double check this, both you and your parent. So as you can see, once you reach this FAFSA summary, you still need to submit your FAFSA form. This doesn't mean that you have already submitted. So you'll have to scroll to the bottom and hit continue. And then I'll ask you to read before proceeding. And so just read what this says. And so it says that by signing this application, you're not in the fault on a federal student loan or have made satisfactory arrangements to repay it, and etc. And then from there, once you finish reading it, this will show up on your screen. And so it'll say student sign with FSA ID. And so to the right, it says parent signature needed. And so this is why I said it's very important that your parents go ahead and already create an FSA ID, because they will have to provide a parent signature. And so by your parent creating an FSA ID signature, it allows for an easier way of having to sign it. Or else if they don't, then you will have to print out a confirmation page and sign it, just sign it and then having to mail it. And so definitely please encourage your parents to create an FSA ID if they already do not have one. And then as you can see, once your parent is ready to parent sign it, it will ask for their parent FSA ID. And so they would enter their username and their password. And then once they finish signing, you should see a confirmation page. And so pay attention to what your EFC is at the end, because the EFC stands for expected family contribution, and it kind of shows you where they believe that how much your family may contribute to paying for your post-secondary education. And so I'm available if you want to talk about that number and kind of what that means in terms of your specific situation. And so as a reminder, make sure the student and one parent signs the FAFSA before submitting it. And so that is very important. And so the FAFSA is open. And so I highly encourage you all to go ahead and complete the FAFSA as soon as possible. And so as a remember, in order for you to complete the FAFSA, you must create an FSA ID. And so if you have any questions, please reach out to me via email. I'm here to help you. My Calendly is set to where you're able to set up appointments to complete your FAFSA. And so your parents are more than happy to join us during this session because it'll make completing FAFSA easier. And so, yeah, just thank you for watching.